Greetings to everyone tuning in. Welcome to the first episode of Big Time Podcast with me, your host, Gabriel. The show is for those of you out there that are young, that be in age, heart, or spirit. This podcast is also for those who are sitting there and think that they want to make a difference in this world, in the community, and in the lives around them. Especially about challenging the prevalent thinking in our world today, in society, in the media, and within our communities. Now, taking a step back and asking yourself, is this the whole story? Well, that's what we want to bring to you here at Blue Book Radio and at Blue Book Media. If you haven't already done so, go over to our Facebook page, Blue Book Media, and smash that like button. So without delaying it any further, let's get into things. Today, we're going to kick off our podcast with a bang. We have an amazing guest with us this afternoon. She's the first female MP of Pacific Island descent for the National Party. She grew up in a state home in the suburb of Mount Albert. Her family moved to Samoa and founded one of the most successful and well-known Pacific fashion labels. She's got a degree in chemical engineering, and she's the mother of 5. Welcome, Agnes Loheni. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here, Gabriel.
Yes, thank you. Is there anything that I left out of that impressive resume?
No, not at all. Perhaps I'd just like to say that of those roles, I see my role as a mother as the most important one. Long after politics and business is finished, my children are my legacy. So that's where my main focus always is.
Definitely. That family role is a big thing, especially in the Pacific community.
Yep.
Awesome. We're really happy to have you here. So, we probably know that you get a lot of nice interviews, but we wanted to ask, some questions which are a little bit tougher. Probably not usually asked. Okay.
Go for it.
Sweet. So you've been in Parliament for over a year now, right?
Yes, came in February last year.
So what would you say is the toughest thing you've had to learn this year?
Where do I start? I think, it's been a whole change of routine for me. The travel, I'm not there with my family every night. Working mum, coming home, making dinner, doing the school pickup. That's been my life for many years. So that bit has been quite a change, but it's also been a good change for me, and I've enjoyed it. I'm very privileged in the role that I got last year. Probably one of the things that I'm sort of had to come to terms with, and I still struggle with, is actually you go from being a very private citizen, going about my business, doing what I do as a mum and working on my business, and then you become an MP, and in a sense you become public property. And so anything you say and do is now under public scrutiny, and I think that's something that I'm coming to terms with. I mean, this is the same for all MPs and public figures, but that's been a new adjustment for me. Yeah,
definitely get all sorts of changes when you're becoming a public official.
And they say, it's people play politics for keeps today. So, missteps are pounced upon, and people are out there deliberately looking for those. And sometimes we do say the wrong thing or say something dumb. There's always going to be someone that's going to get offended. So, your political opponents might want to hold that over you, something that you've said, and in the public domain, as if that defines your character. And I think that's a very unfortunate part of this role, that we become too cautious to have those free and frank discussions.
Yeah, definitely, especially with our current climate and in this politically correct setting. Well, we'll move on to a few questions now.
Sure.
In this time, you've had to vote on quite a few conscience issues, especially euthanasia and abortion, big ones, polarizing ones, both of which you've voted against. Can you explain to us why you voted the way you did?
Sure. Well, I guess that this is the other part about what was quite a challenge coming in as a new MP, was that, I was confronted with not just being new, but having to put in a vote on these two quite polarizing bills, I would say. It was a no-brainer for me in one sense, Gabriel, because both bills are quite in stark contrast to, my core values, my values around life, my upbringing. So in that sense, once I understood that these are conscience votes, and I think this was the challenge, is that some see conscience votes as, well, you're there as an MP put there by your electorate, so you should be voting the way your electorate wants to vote.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. Even if your entire electorate, and there's no way of finding it, but even if you canvassed your entire electorate and they, 100% of them said, actually, we want you to vote this way, this is a conscience issue, I would still vote on my conscience, and the electorate can then vote me out at the next round. But I think to ask an MP to go against something that they, is core to their belief system is wrong. So it is a conscience vote, and MPs will make that decision. And obviously, the votes fell where they did.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was something that I saw also with Seal's vote. Because he's MP for Mangere. There's kind of an outcry over that issue with the way he worded in the abortion bill.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, he stood up in Parliament, and he gave a speech. So you can judge him on what he said at the time, but you can also judge him when you go to the polling booths at the election. Yeah, that's our democracy in action in this country, whether you like it or not.
Well, one of the other things that I was going to mention is, are you worried that some people might say that you're out of touch with the rest of the world?
Not on those issues, because I actually don't think I am out of touch, on those issues. And look, for example, on the abortion one, if you ask anybody, even the ones that would say that they were in favour of this bill, if you say to them, do you support late-term abortions for any reason at all, that they would struggle to answer that in a way that, and they do. So I don't think I am out of touch, and I've noticed that there has been quite a resurgence of the pro-life movement in New Zealand since this bill came into Parliament. There was always a movement, but I think it became a lot more amplified because this bill was before us. Yeah. And I just see that movement getting bigger over coming years. Not only that, I believe more of our younger people are going to lead that movement.
Yeah, definitely, because a lot of words have been thrown around. Like a lot of the anti-billers like to use words like barbaric as if it's like a historical bill or something. But I think issues such as euthanasia and abortion will always be relevant, whether it's in the 1900s or the 21st century.
Exactly, and I think the media plays a very critical role in this. I was quite, disappointed. I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised, I guess, in one sense. I guess it's because I'm still new to this, is because I was on the select committee for the abortion bill, and so I knew the bill intimately. But, I guess the proponents of the bill used this catch cry that this bill was about decriminalising women. Yeah. And so that was the narrative that the media carried the whole way through. And, disregarding the fact that no woman in our history of our current abortion law has ever been criminalised. Yeah. Trying to point out that it was in the Crimes Act to give some protection to the unborn child. So this is the whole challenge with, because most people aren't going to pick up the bill and actually, pour through it and look at it in detail. They will just get the headlines in the media or something. And so, but that's, this is politics. Yeah, exactly. And, the media always got a take on it. Anyways, we'll move on to something else. As a List MP, you're futurists on whether the National Party gets enough party votes in the next election. What do you think realistically are the chances for the National Party of winning the election this coming September? I think we've got a very even chance, Gabriel. Look, prior to COVID, I'd say that the odds were in our favour. Naturally, we've sort of going through this quite extraordinary situation with lockdown. We have, the Prime Minister making announcements very regularly on a daily basis during the week. Everyone's been glued to the screens, watching her. I mean, it's and only her, nobody else. So it's that would have had an impact on, I guess, if you saw some polling, and I don't doubt. I mean, I don't agree with the polling numbers that were out. I don't doubt that there would have been a boost to the Labour Party polling numbers, but it will turn as people start to move out of lockdown and face the reality of what is this real situation out there for families and workers and businesses.
Yeah, like for a lot of National Party supporters, with the election coming up in September, a lot of them might want to know what the path to victory is going to look like for National to take over this time.
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, first of all, as a caucus, we do have to remain a strong, united front. That's the first thing. More importantly, we have to be, as a party, focused not on ourselves but on the families, the workers, the businesses who are feeling some pain right now, and some who are probably going to feel some in the coming months. At the end of the day, we are public servants, and we are here to serve not just the 45% that generally vote for us. We are here to serve all New Zealanders and make the best decisions for everyone.
Yeah.
So, and look, most New Zealanders will concede that the National Party is generally the stronger party when it comes down to fiscal and economic management. We're, generally seen as a good, safe pair of hands when managing the economy. But it's also the economy that's been used as a stick against us by some opponents. I've heard the narrative that we only care about big business and money, and that we care more about the economy rather than saving lives. And that's just deliberate ignorance, in my view. It's not true.
Yeah.
The economy, we don't see it just as numbers. I mean, we see the economy as it's a very integral part of our lives, including saving lives, that it is about people. Yes, we do measure the activity, but it is about people living abundant lives by ensuring that we have the means to provide jobs. Self-determination we talk about a lot. That ability to provide for your families, to put food on the table. We want good schools for our kids. We want a well-functioning health system where you can take your kids to the doctor for free. We want free dental care for our kids. We want good roads so that we can get around to all the, do all the things that are important to us and to our families. But we're also a nation where we expect the state to look after those in need, people that need meals, a shelter, people that fall on hard times. None of those things we can do if we don't have a strong economy. So, the path to victory is the path where we can clearly articulate that our vision of the economy aligns with mums and dads up and down the country and what they want for their families. Gabriel, I think about a time when I was a kid lying in bed and, our parents are up late and they're talking at the kitchen table. And I can only assume at the time, maybe it was times when money was tight, but you can hear, I can't hear what they said, but, I remember them, there was a bit of anxiety and tension. They were probably talking about, how they're going to make ends meet that week or whatever. It's those sorts of conversations that, parents, people that have lost their jobs at the moment will be having at home at night time when their kids are asleep. It's being in tune with those conversations and making sure that we have a plan to get forward. Yeah,
definitely. I think during this lockdown. You want to go?
Yep. No, so carry on.
Well, definitely agree with all of the things that you said, and one thing to mention is also with like the current climate, we're in lockdown. We've been in weeks of lockdown, and definitely business confidence has gone down. And also, like, that just that certainty over what the future looks like for business owners in New Zealand, because I know that small business is a huge part of our economy, and like I think the other day Newstalk ZB, they were talking about the death of 2 business owners And like it's definitely become one of those really sad things, especially for business owners, because like they're losing money and the future for them is not looking bright, especially with the lockdown.
And particularly if it's something that they've spent years trying to build. It's not they don't become, most small business owners, Gabriel, aren't actually rich. They make enough to buy a home and provide some jobs and get by, but very few of them become really, really rich. It's an investment for their retirement often, and so everything that they make in business, they pour back into the business, constantly. And often in the early years, you're not even paying yourself very well as well. You've got to pay everyone else first. So it's to see it all, unravel in the space of 4 to 7 weeks is really sad.
Yeah, very. Well, I think something for our younger audience now. Definitely another polarizing topic. Apparently, we could be having cannabis as a legal thing this time next year. You reckon you can talk to us a little bit more about what your personal take is on that issue?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Euthanasia, abortion, and cannabis. It's like an interesting year of legislation. Look, I don't think it's a surprise. It's not something that I've supported or I've ever supported. And look, this is going to be before voters. It's not actually my vote. It's going to be before the public when they, as a referendum, when they go to vote in the election this year. It's, according to nearly any scientific view, that you look at or data, marijuana is addictive and it is harmful, and particularly around young minds and young brains and growing minds. That evidence is really, really strong. And look, you don't have to go far in South Auckland to see the damage that cannabis has on young growing minds and families and communities. And you don't even have to listen to me. You go talk to the mental health workers and the social service providers in those communities, and they've got stories in abundance of how much damage this does to our young people already. So I'm just not in favour of it. And I don't care about the mum or dad in Epsom who wants to be able to smoke a joint legally. It's the damage that it caused to our community. Yeah,
well, that's definitely something that probably hasn't been at the top of the priority list on a few parties, but definitely one of them would be the Green Party.
What are you hearing, Gabriel, amongst your young friends and things?
Well, a lot of the millennials these days, it's heading towards the act. The act,
they like it.
Yeah, well, they love it. Cannabis is a big thing, especially in our leavers high school age, that are 16 to kind of 21 range, and even and above. Yeah. But it's definitely something that.
So if they're already smoking it now, what do you think the change is going to be with the legislation?
Well, I think the only difference it makes is it's illegal and it's accessible, like legally. So
over 20,
yeah, with that age range. But I don't think it will really change anything, because ones that are smoking it now when it's illegal will be the same ones smoking it when it's legal. So yeah,
sure.
Like, a common thing that's always brought up, especially in these types of talks, is the difference between cannabis and alcohol and just the harmful effects. What do you say to those who say it's just as bad as alcohol?
Look, alcohol definitely hasn't been good for parts of our community.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, and so I say, why add more?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because we've had alcohol for so many years, we've got regulations around it. It still has to be managed. But it is obviously, there is, violence and damage that's attributed to poor alcohol use or abuse, shall we say, in families. And so it isn't good. I'm not saying it's good. I just don't think that's an argument to say then add in cannabis or another,
Yeah, or making it a reason for it. Yeah, because, there are two types of different drugs. They're both drugs, but, cannabis tends to be the more antisocial one of the type. there's not much people that would
Yeah.
go out, and it wouldn't be like everyone's partying with cannabis. It's kind of a different game.
A stay-at-home
Yeah, it's
sort
more
of thing, and
antisocial, stay at home, kind of listen to reggae music. Something that's probably stereotypical, but probably happens a lot.
yeah, I do wonder about how it's going to impact the workplace.
Yeah.
In terms of managers, bosses, it's it becomes legal. Someone comes onto the site, has to drive a forklift, or a construction site. They might do testing, but it's still legal. So where do they sit on that? And I can just see all sorts of complex, challenging situations ahead, really, to try and manage now.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, generally people don't drink and then come to work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You go, it's sort of going, but yeah, I just think it's going to be very challenging.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on now to COVID, something that's relevant to all of us now after being in weeks of lockdown. Beautiful.
Lockdown fever.
Yep. Happy lockdown to everyone listening. We've had 5 weeks of level lockdown, and now we're coming to the end of level 3, transitioning into level 2. Agnes, what do you think, looking back, we should have done better as government?
I mean, first of all, 2020 hindsight is a good thing. I guess if we had some of the information we've got now back then, things could have been a little bit different. But look, the government, I will say the government made decisions on the information they had at the time. So I'll say that. I guess I look across to Australia and the way that they handled it in terms of lockdown and which essential businesses were allowed to open. And I wish that we could have perhaps taken that approach, that they allowed more businesses to stay open during level 4. But a lot of businesses could have opened, they had their online shops, or they could have operated remotely. They could have used the 1 in, 1 out rule, safe distancing.
Yeah.
I just think that would have helped to save, a lot more jobs.
Yeah, definitely.
Just that little thing. But look, it's one of those things that's, you can always look back and think, well, that could have been done better. Yeah. Yeah.
I know when once level 3 came out, everyone was dying to get to McDonald's, fast food chains everywhere. And it got me thinking.
Level 3.9.
Yeah, level 3.9. Level 4 and level 4 fast food chains, McDonald's, the main one, they were closed. But they also didn't have McDelivery either. They didn't have those kind of delivery services. I think that a lot of those fast food chains actually could have opened up, and they, like you said, they could have had that 1 in, 1 out similar approach. But it's things like that.
Yeah, I think people were asking, I know at the time I was getting lots of queries, why were the supermarkets allowed to open? The butcher wasn't, the fruit and veggie shop wasn't allowed to. All those places had to dump their food because it was such short notice that we had to go down that. A lot of perishable items could have planned for, but that didn't happen. So there was just so much food that had to be chucked out. Was there a way that some of those small businesses could have just stayed open and applied the same rule as the dairy, which was 1 in, 1 out?
I think a lot of businesses could have done the same thing. But we'll come back to the National Party now, because it's an interesting topic. What do we have here? What do you say to those who say that the National Party, especially the leader Simon Bridges, has been unhelpful and divisive during this time?
What I say is that I think that Simon is doing exactly what he needs to be doing in any well-functioning democracy, which is to hold the government to account for the decisions that they make. I mean, it's extraordinary times, and we've had our freedoms and liberties basically taken away from us, under this lockdown, under civil defence emergency. So if I sort of think if they think his job is just to sit there and only say nice, supportive things to Jacinda, then why bother having an opposition?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the alternative is a dictatorship where the government just makes laws up on the hoof, and they can ignore legal advice, and no one is there just to ask them questions to challenge them. And I think time will tell that Simon was right to ask questions, just regardless of how people didn't want the government to be challenged at the time.
Yeah, well, definitely, whatever way you look at it, so like not just Simon, but the entire National Party it's hard to be in the opposition seat, because
and also Gabriel, under lockdown level 4, Parliament was suspended. So we were just told short notice that MPs would not be going into Parliament, that we would be basically closed, that we would still work from our home to support any constituent issues. All our offices will be closed. So effectively, there was a time when the government were making all these decisions, and there was no oversight or or scrutiny. And then we had the Epidemic Response Committee, which Simon is chairing, which was an opportunity to give the rest of New Zealand a chance to get other people in to talk about what was happening and to question the officials and ministers. And that was a good thing to have, absolutely. So, it looks like we've got Parliament back on, we've got Parliament back on now, but it's been quite a sort of a skeleton Parliament. And it's meant that, yes, the Prime Minister has had all the attention during this time. But, it's now time to get back to full Parliament, full scrutiny, full oversight. We've got the budget coming up next week. And so, people need to now get their heads around, we've flattened the curve.
Yeah.
Now we've got to work out, how we get the country back up and running again.
So, on the topic of the government, actively, we've had the government actively encouraging people to report their families, their friends and their neighbours if they breach the lockdown. What's your take on that?
To be honest, I think this whole Dobbin culture, and I call it Dobbin culture, has been probably one of the most unfortunate elements throughout this whole lockdown. I mean, as I said, we've never experienced anything like this where we had our freedoms and liberties just taken away from us so abruptly. But we did it because we were told, that it was about saving lives. This was a very aggressive virus, and this was the best chance that we had of fighting it. And so we all came together and complied, even though that meant closing our businesses, and all that, and obviously there's jobs been lost from it. But I think, then I saw reports of someone, seeing people were congregating at the park. I mean, the other thing was that the rules were so arbitrary, so and ambiguous that, first it was you have to stay home within your bubble, but you can go to your local park with your bubble, but then you had to walk there. And then it quickly changed to no, you can go into your car if you have to go to your local park, but you couldn't go to a playground. If you were going to the beach, you had to go to your local beach. And then there was people weren't sure what local meant, like in terms of distance. And then there was, you can't go to the playground because kids might touch the swing or the slide. You couldn't go surfing, but sort of you could go surfing, and then it switched to you couldn't go surfing. So you can imagine that creates a bit of anxiety and tension, and you're always going to have people that would sort of think, oh, that just doesn't make sense because I'm actually only with my bubble, but yet there were signs saying that you had to be, if you're in a car going to the supermarket, you had to be by yourself, and so the ringing up and reporting on others, like I think that's just been. It just causes tension and divisiveness, really. Like
even with the response, and especially a lot of the, I'll use an example of that the park scenario. It's really vague. I think the other week, that term local park. It's kind of subjective.
So where did you go during level 4?
Well, level 4, I have a park just around the corner, but I also have a park like 5 minutes away, which I drive to. I ended up getting stopped by the cops because apparently that wasn't my local park. But one of the things I was really interested in after that was, well, what constitutes local park? Is there a specific radius, like 5Ks? You know, like.
And this was always the problem, is that when you have arbitrary rules, you see, we have laws, and laws are quite specific, and you know which law you've broken, but these instructions around what was local, going here or there, and who are you with, they were fairly ambiguous and fairly arbitrary, and every day should be changing it. And so it was too much to try and follow. And of course, you've got people that want to tell off other people. You've always got people in our community who think, you know, that those people shouldn't be breaking these rules. And look, now this week, it seems that wasn't even legal.
Yeah. But,
you know, it appears that they may not have been legal. There was no legal basis for giving those instructions to police to go and, you know, break up a group or stop people who were meeting at the park and things like that. So that again just makes it feel like, because you know what, Gabriel, I think at the end of the day, even if the Prime Minister had come to us at the start of level 4 and said, look, I don't actually have a legal basis to stop you, but for the sake of our country and to try and stop the spread, I am asking you, could you please just, you know, refrain from doing this or doing this? I think people would have done it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So without the whole police thing over it, and, you know, people would have gone, okay, yeah, we get it, we'll do this. But now we sort of hear that there wasn't a legal basis, and the police have, you know, been called to these groups for people doing things. And it's unfortunate.
Definitely, you know, especially with over the Easter weekend, there was a big just presence of police, especially on Good Friday. It was supposed to be Good Friday instead of Get Stopped. Get Stopped Friday, you know. Yeah. A lot of checkpoints.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to head into some, you know, quicker questions, some rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask you. We've got 5 questions here, and you have to answer each question in 3 words or less. Does that sound good?
3 words or less. Okay.
So try your best.
Oh, that's gonna be really hard.
Oh, shouldn't be too hard. I'll kick us off with the first question. Who inspires you to become who you are today?
Oh, easy. Mum and Dad.
Always.
Always.
What's your favorite book?
Oh, Gabriel. I don't have one favorite book.
I take it you read a lot.
Look, since I've had a Kindle, I like to pick up these $1 or $2 novels, which I do like the thriller genre, and just like easy reads to help me unwind from reading all my parliamentary stuff.
Okay.
Oh, I just say I loved when I was younger, big fan of Wilbur Smith novels. Do you know Wilbur Smith? Did you read those?
It does not ring any bells.
About the Ballantines and famous. He writes about the Ballantines and Courtney families, and they're sort of quite sweeping dramas set in South Africa.
Oh yeah, sounds pretty pretty interesting.
Sorry, that wasn't words.
It was more like a quarter of an essay. But yeah, we'll move on to the third one. Who's your favorite political commentator? Anywhere.
Oh, Gabriel. Anywhere. Yeah. I listen to a lot of Ben Shapiro at the moment.
Shapiro.
But a lot more. I mean, I just overseas, locally. Look, there's probably not many that I wouldn't listen to. It's good to be abreast of different commentators.
Okay, this one's probably more so about post-career. Where do you want to go when you retire?
I'll probably go to Samoa in retirement.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lay down the roots again.
Yep.
What are 3 things you want to be remembered for when you finish in politics?
I want to be remembered for someone that made a real and significant contribution to our Pacifica families in New Zealand. I want to be recognised for someone who's been a strong advocate for our small business communities. And I hope to be remembered as someone who actually stayed true to their values. The values that I said, in my maiden speech, that someone can hold me up to those.
It's definitely a great legacy to leave behind. I think it'll be testament to a lot of people that should be leaving that kind of legacy behind. But once again, it was good 5 questions, which were answered in definitely over 3 words.
Yeah, good. They were hard.
This is some short questions, but well, awesome. Well, we'll come to the end of our time, Agnes. Just want to say thank you so much for being with us today. Are there any last things that you want to say? Just anything you want to.
Oh no, thank you, Gabriel. Just really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you continue and just hearing lots of other people and young people. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I really want to hear more young people get involved and sharing their views, and this is great platform.
Well, thanks again, Agnes. It was great having you. Great honor for you to kickstart our podcast, Big Time Podcast. But once again, thank you for
an honor for me. Thank you.
Great having you. So back to everyone listening. Make sure you smash that like button on our Facebook page. Tell all your friends, spread the word, and be sure to subscribe to Blue Book Radio on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, where you'll be able to catch all our shows. Finally, if you have any questions or topics that you want us to cover, or if you want us to get a certain guest or something on the show, then flick us a message here at Blue Book Media, and we'll definitely look into it, because we're all about trying to get the full story and the full picture. And also, just to end it off, I just want to thank the team over at Blue Book Media for getting this podcast up and running. And well, that's it for the podcast. And I just want to say have a great weekend, everyone. And I'm your host, Gabriel Tangi. That's us.